What is going on, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the debut album by the rapper NF, and this project is called Mansion, and it came out in the spring of 2015. Now, truth be told, there actually is a prior NF album to this one. This isn't his technical debut, just because he did kind of drop an independent album back in 2010. But this is basically his mainstream debut, and this is what kicked off the NF ramp that kind of crested into later years that's even going today. And the thing about it was originally he was kind of in like the Christian rap kind of category and stuff, but it's not quite as easy to see. I mean, I've noticed that NF doesn't really cuss on this project, but apart from that, it doesn't really have overbearing amounts of just like the kind of situation where it seems like kind of softcore rap music or something like that. And I just would have to say, like, for the most part, when I listen to NF, I kind of feel like there are times, sometimes at times, that can kind of be offhanded and kind of mixed bags and that type of stuff. At least some of them, like, or that's why I thought. I mean, I like Clouds more than I used to, but I kind of feel like Perception is kind of a mixed bag. But I did like his 2019 album. I forget what that one. I think it's called The Search. That was a really good one. But this is probably up there with The Search. I think this has got to be in his top three or top two, even. I would say Mansion and The Search are two of my favorite albums by NF. And this one just definitely has some exuberant, kind of bolsterous kind of prospects about it. And I feel like if it just would have nailed every single on this project, it probably would have been complete in like the wholesome top notch category. But for the most part, I mean, it's not like a wholesome victory to the point where it's going to get like a 9.5, 10 out of 10. But I do think this is a quality project that does have some gems towards it. You can tell by the album cover that this is just a very dark and moody kind of project. And this is kind of like the more I listen to NF, the more I kind of feel like describing him as if like Eminem were to keep his type vibes that he has on Recovery, and then this really push into like the emo and kind of more moody categories like Chester Bennington and some of those type people. I definitely feel like you'd have a batch of NF for what kind of happens. That just really happens to be the aspect by it. I like these album covers that always have these kind of grimacing and kind of grim looking album covers and that type of stuff. It's just kind of the prospect that NF is definitely a potent kind of ruminating rapper, and he did it right from the get go. He was trying to have that style. And initially, I used to think that it was just kind of like a replicant of like the Recovery style that Eminem did, but now I see this as more of like just like a particular originality of a style that's kind of unlike most that's kind of unlike a lot of rappers in the pop rap scene. I feel like Post Malone has a different kind of style, and Jack Harlow has a different kind of style, and like other folks like that kind of have different styles. But I definitely have to give NF credit for really spearheading this scene, and really in a lot of ways, I feel like he's probably one in terms of the white rapper scene. I'd say he's definitely one of like the more spearheaded styles of being able to truly master like pop rap and commercial rap music. Is definitely a sight to behold in terms of that. If he would have a little bit of foul language in there and some guests and just some more stuff like that, I would definitely say that it would be the most potent. But for what it is, him doing this by himself and doing it in like a more clean setting, he still manages to nail it quite well. So that just kind of happens to be the thing about it. But there were three singles on this project. The first single is Intro, which this is the only single off the three singles that I didn't enjoy, mainly because it was just trying to be too terrifying and too terrorizing a beat. I really feel like this is the sort of stuff, like, I don't feel like this is quite trap NF like he would do on like Perception and later records, but I do kind of feel like it's at least trying to be kind of foreboding and menacing and stuff, but it just didn't quite pull it off as well. I feel like a lot of this album does kind of have like these storm cloud and kind of forebodingly moody kind of vibes, but the intro just didn't quite pull it off as well. It was just not quite as compelling like an instrumental for something that would seem that kind of morbid in terms of that. Like, I think it probably needed to take a page out of like some horrorcore playbooks or something like that. But I mean, for what it is, I do feel like the kind of moody, kind of haunting kind of feel towards it. I mean, it's still better. This intro and some of these records that I didn't enjoy are still better than stuff that's mediocre that may kind of be more popular. So that's just something to keep in mind. But the second single is Wait, and this one connected with me a lot more. This definitely feels like a single that NF did off of his Perception days, and I didn't realize that even in his early days, like back in 2015 when he was younger and stuff, I didn't realize that he still had like the Perception styled radio hits crafted back then. And that's the thing, is he did chart with this album, Wait. Intro and All I Have, all three of the singles did chart, at least on Intro, Wait, and All I Have charted on Christian rap radio. So it's interesting that he was charting even back in those days as far as trying to get that sort of thing done. But I do feel like Wait is definitely a radio ready and kind of emo, kind of R&B type tune. So this is kind of R&B stuff, the sort of stuff that Drake would do and like Travis Scott would do and that type of stuff, where it's kind of rap R&B, or it's kind of sing-songy rap, but it's kind of an emo sense of that. So it's just NF kind of doing like some emo type music because it's just more moody in that sort of context, a lot more effectual and kind of like the kind of serenading and that type of stuff. And it's just a really nice single overall, but it's kind of heavy. I mean, the emotions on this song are kind of heavy, and I think that's kind of the concept where it's not just an emo song, but it's just kind of a heavy kind of tune, which is the powerful emotions kind of, I would almost say, maybe somewhat detract from its sightliness as far as being on the radio, just because it's just such a like true heavy kind of single in terms of the emotions kind of going on. But it is radio ready. It has a nice hook on here, and it feels just ripped out of something that NF kind of did with his Perception days, with songs like Let You Down and some of those type records from Perception. But the third single is All I Have, and this is a nice evening commute kind of song. Definitely very moody, but also radio ready. Just another song that feels like it was ripped out of the Perception days from NF. I feel like the similarity, like NF really carved out his style pretty quickly, just with his first three albums from 2015, 16, and 17. And a lot of these just have that kind of pretty much mastered kind of era of like recovery era Eminem and that type of stuff, just with a more moody and ruminating type feel towards it. Just that sort of ruminatingness really has like its power here, but a lot of these just are really uh complete stock ready and just equipped, trained to go for like the concept of being able to be evening commune. I just feel like it's just interesting. It's just interesting that NF had such a crafted personality for the radio, because I feel like rappers like Mac Miller and like Jack Harlow don't quite have that quite as fleshed out. And Post Malone kind of does it, but he kind of does it in a more southern type drawl in a lot of ways. He has more trap orientation, but it's pretty interesting how quick to water that NF really translates to like pop rap radio and stuff. He really comes off as like an affable personality and like commute kind of day commute and just makeshift era kind of radio music for that type stuff. And I definitely feel like the concept behind that is pretty strong. So this is like the third album now that I've seen by NF that just has that power, where I feel like Perception, The Search, and Mansion all have that pretty stellar quality of just having these radio ready jingles and that type stuff. And a lot of these just work extremely well. I'm just gonna have to see what therapy session from 2016 winds up being like, because it's just pretty stellar seeing that NF has. It's pretty interesting seeing NF have these hits, and he just stacks them up pretty immediately, and that's kind of the concept about it. So it's a good gem there is All I Have. It's really, I like the kind of glittery, kind of sample heavy, kind of like soul, chipmunk soul type production, and like the verses and that type of stuff. It just really feels like a 2010s R&B type song, especially for the radio and stuff. It's just makeshift from the 2010s and stuff, so it's a pretty good gem for that. So to talk about some of the songs I recommend to you, so out of like 12 songs on here, I wound up recommending to you 7, so I'll go ahead and list those songs for you. So those 7 songs would be Mansion, the title track, Wait, All I Have, Motivated, Turn the Music Up, Face It, and Can You Hold Me? So basically, to talk about some of these, I feel like a really kind of haunting one. There's a couple haunting songs on here that really have like their moodiness down. This is just really kind of gothic and emo type pop rap and stuff, and I really feel like NF really nailed this. Like Eminem doesn't always do this. He might dab into horrorcore now and then, but NF really has like some truly moody, this kind of pop rap that just is interesting, just because this is an original valve of like genre here that just not many white rappers or rappers in general were kind of doing. So this is interesting. I really like the kind of swirling, kind of dark, haunting piano type feel of Mansion, the title track. Definitely a huge ruminating commercial bop. And the thing about that song is it's radio ready, so that's another good one for that. Can You Hold Me is a very gothic and haunting kind of piano song that's similar to Evanescence, but it's kind of pop rap. So this one, Can You Hold Me, has a nice duet with Britt Nicole, who's another pop singer. And I just would have to say that one really, I mean, it feels pretty similar to Evanescence, but I just look after it like is just kind of in a more rap oriented and like mild pop oriented kind of valve towards it because NF sings a little bit on here. So it's a good one for that. But it's just kind of both of those are very kind of like they feel like fall music, like October, November type stuff when it's bare outside and cool outside and that type of stuff. So it's good for that. A couple of motivated gems. There's three dance club cuts on here that I really liked, and that about rounds up the rest of the project. I feel like motivated, turn the music up, and face it are all really kind of dance and high octane energy type tunes. Where probably the most rave of these would be turn the music up. This is a song that Jackal Goldkick showed me in the past, and I did like this one. Definitely a club cut, which NF doesn't always do these. To my knowledge, this is one of the few ones I've heard from NF that's actually a dance club kind of cut. Has real nice dance energy. It's a nice jolt of energy, and NF's really kind of exhilarated and excited in the lyrics. So he really kind of feels like excited. So it's just kind of the concept of getting him kind of ramped up and that sort of stuff. It's just a nice one. Nice jolt of energy. Motivated is another high rave energy kind of song. Definitely one to get you pumped. It's personal, it's moody, and it kind of reminds me of like Eminem's "Till I Collapse." It has that same kind of motivational purposes type tune on here. Obviously, the song being called "Motivated," but I look after it as just kind of like a real. I mean, this one's a high jolt of energy, this real rave type stuff. So NF just kind of gets excited on this project, and the difference is on this album compared to some of the stuff he did on Perception and Clouds. I kind of feel like when he gets turned up a little bit and kind of gets a little bit crazy and manic, it actually pulls off on this time just because it's not on kind of awkward trap beats that just don't suit him. And I think that's kind of the concept where these are just kind of alternative rap kind of dance bops on here that really kind of get the energy jolted. And they kind of have like some mid EDM type feel, but all of these are kind of dance ready. And then Face It's another dance ready tune. This one's a light EDM song, but it has some blue collar lyrics in the verses and that type stuff. So it's not really a party song as much as just like a blue collar EDM type song, which is interesting to kind of get that. So it's kind of a makeshift dance song. This is kind of, but I do like the concept that NF basically the whole way through the album, he has like basically presentable and kind of affable lyrics to like makeshift and blue collar and stuff, but he does do it in like an energy where he knows the right valve. And it's just interesting his public relations factor as to how well he managed to handle that concept. And he did it with pretty much relative ease, at least on and basically on his first albums. That's definitely, awesome that he was able to pull that off so early and get that kind of done. It's just kind of the concept of getting those three dance cuts that all have that kind of energy, and some of them could be for blue collar and work and that type stuff, but then also to have like some kind of Evanescence type tunes and this really moody kind of music that's just really kind of haunting with Mansion, the title track, and Can You Hold Me, and then some pretty nice kind of riveting songs that also have that moodiness factor with Wait and All I Have. So those are just some nice ones. But talk about the five songs I didn't enjoy. I already talked about why I didn't like Intro, but to talk about some other of these, I feel like the energy of Paralyzed and I'll Keep On is just very mute and just kind of subdued and that type of stuff, but it just doesn't do it quite as interesting, where I feel like these are trying to be more makeshift and kind of like ballad-esque down-tempo type tunes, which I think NF didn't quite pull off as well. I mean, I like it when he at least does mid-tempo type stuff for some of these moody type songs, but they just really come off as more brooding and kind of bruised in a lot of ways. But that's kind of the thing, is even the up-tempo songs are moody, the mid-tempo songs are moody, and the down-tempo songs are moody. But I feel like NF at least pulled off the up-tempo and mid-tempo songs with the moodiness. But the ones that are kind of more down-tempo, like Paralyzed and I'll Keep On, and then also Wake Up is another one like that. I just kind of feel like some of these just kind of have like energy that's just more sluggish and just doesn't quite come off as doesn't quite come off as compelling. So it's just kind of something where I do see the concept of some of this being interesting just because NF's character is interesting, but it just didn't quite compel me to be a believer in that sort of style, at least of the down tempo stuff. But it is there if you're looking for something real morose. Those are just really comatose kind of songs almost, just because this whole album is very kind of Stormcloud-esque. So, but then the only other song to really talk about besides that is just Notepad, which I didn't really like this being the gimmick song. I did kind of like the kind of jittery, slightly haunting kind of production on there, but I just wish he wouldn't have donated that song just to talking about his notepad and him having a a team, him being a team with his notepad where he writes his lyrics and that type of stuff. It just was not quite as compelling. I feel like that beat should have probably been used for something that could have been an actual song topic, like another party joint, like Turn the Music Up or something, ruminating like Eminem does or something. But it just didn't quite have a compelling topic, so that's why I didn't fuck with that one. So but me liking 7 songs out of 12 on here and recommending those 7 songs out of 12 to you, I'm gonna have to give this album a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like that's pretty solid. Me liking 2/3 of the singles and over half the project, where I feel like this is compelling enough. And I really did like these songs. I didn't just like halfway like them or like them 60% or something like that. I mean, a lot of these are actually pretty high octane joints, that especially the dance club EDM joints on here, those are pretty high octane just to get. And I really like the singles. I'm starting to really become a fan of NF singles just because he seems to always nail these for the most part, minus the intro. And I just would have to say, this kind of an interesting concept to kind of get some of these moments and kind of see some styles from NF, especially this early on, for him to carve out his style. And originally I thought he kind of took inspiration from Eminem, but I think minus just like the recovery archetype, which is just kind of pop rap type tunes that became central in the 2010s. I mean, NF, his kind of emo and gothic kind of pop rap, his kind of emo and gothic pop rap kind of music is just pretty much authentic to his own style. So I like the concept of him doing that. So he wins points for that, and that kind of helps boost the score. The social score, I'm going to give like a 7 out of 10 because I feel like some of this is good, but it is kind of a moody project, and some of that, like the ruminating, is nice for the time, and I think that can some of it be compelling. But I just think the concept, maybe I do think he's kind of an insular personality, and sometimes he just comes off as maybe paranoid and just kind of bruised and brooding, more so than needing some songs. He needed more songs like Turn the Music Up and Motivated and that type of stuff. But he kind of like thinks aloud and that type of stuff. And that's just kind of the concept about it, that we just needed more songs that's just like, hey, I'm going to smoke one and go out for the night and flirt with some chicks at a dance club and that type of stuff, just to kind of see NF do that sort of thing. But for the most part, I give it a 7 because this is compelling. And the production is, for the most part, almost wholesomely fantastic. So there's a number of things on here, but it's just, you know, it has like a certain context of kind of being outgoing, but then kind of just, he's kind of particular about doing it. So that's kind of the thing there. So in terms of the future, like NF just dropped an album in April of 2023. So I'm going to have to get to some more of these, but I'm definitely going to review Therapy Session from 2016. And I'm definitely going to have to review Therapy Session from 2016. I'm going to review NF's EP from 2014 and some more of these. So we'll get to some more of this stuff.